Not the In the Turn interview tonight. This is our Bugsy's birthday segment, sponsored by Brightman Lumber down in Assonet. Of course, great friends of the show. We will see Patty and Radical Rick this Saturday night at Seekonk as we take two on Seekonk Speedway opening night. Of course, as I mentioned, we've got Rick Cleary in studio, and Rick is a son of a racer. He's been involved in the auto business as well for many years. Rick, welcome to the show, and of course, you know my first question, as I always ask, how'd you catch the racing bug? I'm pretty sure this is going to be an easy one.
Yeah, it's pretty easy, Miles. It's pretty easy. First, I want to say thank you to you guys for what you do for racing here on the South Shore, because there's not a lot of this talk anywhere around on the South Shore, and this is fantastic, I think. I think you guys do a great job.
Thank you.
I just want to get that out first. Of course, I caught it from my father, who, ever since I was born, was racing, and Mom used to just pack us all into the car, and we used to go to Norwood Arena on Saturday nights. And that's how I caught it, and just kept watching and just kept going. And then as we got older, my mother stayed home. If she stayed home, we couldn't go. So that was tough. So, yeah. But when we were little, we were all on the fence at Norwood, and we loved it. And all my brothers and sisters, we all went, and it was pretty amazing times back then. It really was.
Of course, we had the Norwood Arena conversation that Rick helped actually coordinate that whole show that night, and that's very much appreciated. So, of course, your father raced for many years. He was a 14-time track champion in New England, 44-year career, track championships at Norwood, Seekonk, Thompson. He's a Hall of Fame New England auto racer, 1999. What'd your father mean to you and his career?
It was kind of odd because he was such a big name in racing, but he was still our dad, and he got us into sports. And once we got into sports, we didn't go to racing as much, but he was all about sports. One thing about my father, winning was everything. Winning was absolutely everything. So you played something, you played all out. You raced all out, and that's the way he was. That's what he instilled in us, and me and my brothers, we all have pretty competitive blood going through us, so it just kept going.
So talk about Norwood Arena, because I'm a little bit too young, because it was Norwood was like kind of the guys who were in 60 years old all remember Norwood.
Yep.
But out of all the tracks in New England, Miles, right, and I mean all of them, people were crazy about Norwood Arena. Yeah. So what made people so crazy about that place?
It was a little quarter mile, and it was banked.
Yep.
And it was just it was just crazy.
There's people who worship that place.
Yeah, it was just crazy. It was just a little bowl, and it was awesome. It was packed. I remember it being packed every Saturday night that you went. It was just crazy.
Right where, for those who don't remember where Norwood Arena is, because I got the history lesson. And I obviously deal with, it was Bach Toyota. It's now New Car Toyota. But right where the Auto Mile is, right there on Route 1 in Norwood. Of course, Ben's attentively listening because Ben's younger than I am. I didn't know where it was till the interview, so we're all learning something here tonight.
Yeah.
Ben knows where the Starbucks is down there.
Yeah. I've turned into a Mary Lou's guy, Paul.
Okay.
But I like Miles said, this is a learn as Ben goes kind of segment, but I found a hilariously fantastic quote on the Stafford Motor Speedway website, and it goes, aggravated after one Norwood crash, he, talking about Leo, threw a punch at the track's most popular driver. NASCAR steward Carl Merrill told Cleary that the punch would cost him $50. So Cleary paused, punched his rival a second time, and told Merrill make it $100. I love it. That's just so hilarious.
But the good thing about that was they didn't take it out on the track back then.
Mm-hmm.
It was you took care of it in the pits, and there was more respect on the track back then. That's the way I
completely understand.
In my head, that's the way I remember it, and he didn't back away from anything. So if he wasn't happy, you knew it. So
willing to pay the fines.
Yes.
It was funny because Rick and I, just before the show, brought brought that same exact quote up. So great minds think alike there, Ben.
Sure. So can I ask a question? Just building on that. What about your dad and Bugsy? Did they ever have any tense, or were they always on the same team?
No, they didn't get a. I mean, it wasn't they were buddies.
Nobody gets along.
But
We're all
they
racing.
used to do like the Martinville trips and stuff like that, and they all hung around. They all joked around. They all got along.
Right.
You know what I mean? But on the track, they were fierce, but they were clean. It's not like that anymore. You bang the shit out.
It is a little different.
You bang the
crap
just keep
out
banging
of them.
someone
Yeah.
to move them, and it wasn't like that back then. It was. My father had a saying of, everyone has that 3-bump rule.
Yep.
And my father, since I was a kid, had one, and it was, first bump, I'm here, I'm faster than you. Second bump was pick a lane. Third bump, I'm picking the lane for you. That's what he used to say all the time.
So,
and it was.
I know you didn't expect to get a pop quiz here tonight.
Okay.
But let's see how good Rick's memory is.
Yeah.
I have a friend of mine from the local place that I'm a bartender at.
Yep.
Who told me, he goes, I went down to Martinsville in such and such a year to see Leo Cleary run, and we were on the way, we almost got there, and Leo blew up in practice, and we turned around and went home. Do you remember what year that might be?
I do not.
No.
Those years, he had his best success like 71, 72. He sat on the pole, I think, in 72, set the track record in the Mystic Missile 4.
Mm-hmm.
And
what a car.
That was...
Car's iconic.
Well, a shout-out to Mike, because I know Mike was going to listen tonight. I will get the answer from him. He probably doesn't even remember the year.
Yeah.
But a tip of the cap to Mike, who is one of my regulars at the local place I bartend at, who brought that story up. I've actually heard that story quite a few times, so I had to bring it up on air tonight with you. Here's what we're going to do as we've started to talk with Rick, and, quickly, Paul kind of touched upon it. The relationship of your father and Bugsy. Let's talk quickly about that before I segue into a special guest that we have that has joined us here on the phone.
They got along great. I mean, they never had fisticuffs, which was very common.
Yep.
I mean, my father was considered a hard-nosed driver, and he was. And a lot of people didn't like that. He was Dick Bergman inducted him into the Hall of Fame, New England Auto Races Hall of Fame, and he said he was the first Earnhardt before there was an Earnhardt. So Bugsy, to me, was one of the cleanest racers. Bugsy was awesome to me. I mean, I watched my father, and Bugsy was the other guy I watched. So that was, to me, Bugsy was clean, raced his ass off, was fast everywhere he went. I'm sorry.
It doesn't. You're good.
They always used to go on road trips everywhere. They used to travel all over. So they all got along. It wasn't like they didn't get along.
Right.
But some people were hard-headed, some people weren't, so, and he considered my father hard-headed, which I totally understand. One thing, Ben. So my father's prized possession that he had in a frame was a fine from NASCAR. It was a $200 fine, and it's because he punched Jerry Cook in the face.
That is.
I don't know if you've heard of Jerry Cook.
It rings a bell.
He loved that. He had that framed.
Better than any trophy he's ever won.
That's the one thing I can't find, and I don't know where it is.
That's awesome.
So, of course, Bugsy's going to be celebrating his 90th birthday on Saturday, this coming Saturday, May 11th. And the good news is, and I have to plug this out there, I will put it up on the page, but if you want to send Bugsy a birthday card, he is at the Talkwauton on the Wharf, which is 500 Waterfront Drive, room 330. Don't worry, I will post this out if you want to send him a birthday card. And that's in East Providence, Rhode Island, 02914. Again, it'll be posted on the Miles on Motorsports page. But I could think of no better person, and I got to tip my hat to Rick for coordinating this, but joining us on the phone is 2004 New England Racers Hall of Fame modified driver from Connecticut. We're joined by Bill Harman. Bill, pleasure to have you here, and I know you've got a couple of war stories about Bugsy, so welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. This is a pleasure. And I did hear some of Rick's comments about his buddy Bugs, and there's nobody better than Bugs. Bugs is as good as they come. He raced you hard, he raced you clean, and just outstanding. As Leo, how can we not talk about Leo? Because I raced many years with Leo, and Leo and I never had a problem. Thank God we never did. But getting back to Bugs, he's not the national champ 3 years in a row for no reason. He went out and earned it in big times.
So I got to talk to you earlier today on the phone, and you told me a good little story that I need you to share with the listeners about. Let's just say fireworks. I'll throw that at you and let you run with it.
This was a crazy one. Georgie Pendergast and I. This was after the race at Thompson Speedway. We were sitting in Georgie's had a big white Cadillac, and we were just sitting in it as the drivers are walking out of the speedway, out of the pit gate to go up to the clubhouse. And here comes Bugsy and Lenny side by side, and my window was down. It was a nice evening. As Bugsy walks by, he reaches in his hand and pulls out a firecracker, the big ones.
M80.
M80.
Yep.
And I thought nothing of it because he was always throwing firecrackers or doing something crazy. Well, he takes the cigar, lights the M80, and throws it in the front seat of George's car.
Oh.
That's in between me and George, and that thing is fuzzing, and I said, how the heck do I get out of this car? Well, I got out, I opened the door, and the thing blew up. George's seat's on fire. His headline is on fire. And we're scared to death. I said, what the hell? And Bugsy just walking with his head down like nothing even happened. And later on, Bugsy says, I think I got a seat for you, George. Just come up, and I'll find you a seat for you up in the lot. But that's one of Bugsy's wacky stories, which is he had plenty of them. He was some sort of a guy.
Well, you were quite a guy too. Quickly tell us before we share one more Bugsy story that you told me on the phone today. Just talk to us about what racing means to you.
Racing was my whole life. When I was a seventh grader, I'd go to the Speed Bowl and watch Freddie Lucchese and Billy Tibbetts, and there was all these oh man, greatest names in racing when I was a kid at the Speed Bowl, and that's where I got started. And I used to ride my bicycle out there and ride around the racetrack. I was from New London, and go in the pits and ride around the Speed Bowl. And I said, I'm going to do this someday, in which my dream came true. I'm racing against guys like Redfoot, Billy Slater, Don Collins, and that's how my racing day started. But it was the biggest time when I went to Thompson Speedway, when we had open comp shows, tracks from all over New England. The drivers would show up. Of course, Bugsy, DeSaro, and New London had their own representatives of drivers, which I was one of them. And we'd go to Thompson, and the guy to beat was this number 75. It said Little Genie on it, I believe, and that was Bugsy. And that 75, that's the first acquaintance I had with Bugsy, and he was the guy to beat, and he was something else.
So, Bill, the final question I have for you, as you're good friends to this day with Bugs, what does Bugs mean to you? His personality, him? Tell us quickly as we let you roll.
Well, Bugsy is a wonderful friend. I talk to Bugsy a couple times a week, and his love for me and my love for him is exceptional. We do respect each other, but we do love each other as friends. And his friendship to me means everything, because not only because of me and him together, but he's probably one of the greatest race drivers in the country. And to be friends with something like that, of course, as with Leo Cleary, it means everything to me. And I did talk to Bugs this morning, and I will be calling him on his birthday. But and another thing, Bugsy did throw a snake in my car one time at Thompson Speedway, scared the daylights out of me. I think about a 4-foot black snake comes into my car, and we're pitted on the backstretch. I said, "What the heck is this thing?" And that was written up in the Boston paper the next day.
Well, Bill, an absolute pleasure to have you joining us here during our Bugsy's birthday segment, sponsored by Brightman Lumber and Assonet. Stay well. Enjoy the Florida sunshine, because I do know you're down there, and we really appreciate your time.
Yeah, I'll be home the 17th, but I got one quick one. Talking about Bugsy, he says by far the best mechanic he ever had on a race car was none other than Lenny Bowler. He says, all the ones I had, it was Lenny. Just a little quick note.
Excellent.
Thank you, Bill.
Bill Harman, 2004 New England Racers Hall of Fame inductee, joining us here. Connecticut's own. He's down in Florida now. As we wrap this segment up, I'm going to go one more time to Rick and your father and Bugsy were great friends. Obviously, you've seen Bugsy over the years. What's Bugsy and your father's relationship mean to you?
It means everything, because there was such camaraderie. It's a whole separate world, racing is, as Paul knows. And the friendships you build, they were friendships till the day my father died. They got closer as they got older. Down in Florida, they got closer, and I really appreciate Bugsy, how much he meant to my father. So, and how much he cared for my father at the end. And Billy was right there with my father till the end. So they mean a lot to me. So.
Awesome. So. And Paul, somebody who's older than Ben and I, obviously, what's Bugsy's impact been on your racing career?
So I remember Bugsy, we used to go to Seekonk and watch racing, right? And I told Rick, I don't remember Bugsy driving a modified. I remember Bugsy driving a pro stock down Seekonk. And no matter what happened in the race, when it came toward the end of the race, he was around the front, and it would just be slow, and he'd just kind of get there. And he was one of the only ones. I mean, Vinny Anarumo could do it, Joey Carafas could do it, but there wasn't a lot of guys who could pass that many cars. I mean, they had full fields of cars. It wasn't like sometimes you see. And he'd always just be to the front. And he was an old guy at the time, and I was like, wow, this guy's something.
Yeah. Well, here's what we're going to do, because we have the Seekonk Speedway Roundup coming up. Kyle Souza joining us for that. We have branching out as well. But I have to end the segment with a very happy 90th birthday to Bug Stevens. Saturday, May 11th. Enjoy your day. And I can think of no better picture of Bugs than the picture on social media a couple months ago when there was rumors of his demise. Him in a big blonde wig with a Bloody Mary in his hand. So tip of the cap. Happy birthday, Bugs.